So first and foremost, thank you so much for joining us today for CSP's 2016 informational, for the first of CSP's 2016 informational webinar series. Today we're going to talk about a topic that has piqued a ton of interest over the last few months. I get asked about it in almost every meeting, and that is Windows 10. What's the big deal? Should I upgrade? I have users dying to do it. I have others who are scared to death of it. I keep hearing conflicting reports. Simply help. And so today that's really what we want to try to do, is help you navigate some of these questions by providing some insights from our seat. And while I wouldn't say it's the perfect seat, it does have a unique perspective. Microsoft calls us almost weekly trying to push their agenda, so we are very familiar with that. Internally, our team has been running Windows 10 different users for many months now. And externally, we're talking with customers and hearing stories from the market almost daily. So again, my goal today is to provide a lot of information, hopefully delineate fact from fiction, and give you the information that you need to decide what is right for your business. Time is of the essence, so we will dive on in. But before we do, a few quick housekeeping items. One, I do really want to respect everyone's time and keep this to 30 minutes. So as such, as you may have noticed, we did mute everyone upon entry just so that we will eliminate any background noise and be able to work through the content. Questions are more than welcome, but if you do want to submit a question, we ask that you submit them via text on the right-hand side of your GoToMeeting menu. We have allowed for some time at the end of this to go through those different questions and answer them. And if we do run short on time, anything we can't get to, we'll take your name down and follow up afterwards. So without further ado, though, let's dive in. So from an agenda standpoint, I do want to briefly introduce CSP and myself. Then we will go over a quick Windows 10 overview. We'll look at why Windows 10, specifically from a Microsoft perspective. That's what the Kool-Aid that they're sort of preaching. We'll look at what we see from our standpoint. We'll dive into some CSP recommendations, next steps. Depending on the amount of time, I think I only have time for a short demo, but there's not a ton to see anyways, but I will be able to show you some of the basics, and then as mentioned, some of the Q&A. So while some of you are our customers, I did see a few names registering of people who may not be familiar with us. So I wanted to start with a very brief introduction of CSP. CSP is a 21-year-old managed IT services and solutions firm based here in Raleigh, North Carolina. We are truly humbled by our sustained success and proud to help companies like yours achieve your technical and business goals. We have 35 employees, the large majority being engineers, and support companies throughout the Piedmont and coastal region of North Carolina. We pride ourselves on being an end-to-end solutions and support provider. Simply, we have the technical resources that scale anywhere from Tier 1 help desk, managed services type support, all the way to high-end design engineers doing more specialized consulting about some of today's cutting-edge technologies. Most importantly, though, we pride ourselves on being a customer service organization at the core. While the business and technical acumen is critical, and we do believe that at our core is paramount to serve our people, our customers, and our community. We really are here to serve. And then as for me, though, so I am Stephen Riddick. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing here at CSP. My contact information is at the bottom of this slide. You're more than welcome to reach out to me if you have any further questions or concerns. I know some of you, but a few names I didn't recognize, so again, feel free to reach out. I'm not going to lie, I hate very wordy slides, and unfortunately, though, with the type of content we're presenting today, as we move forward, you will find a lot of words and verbiage, and unfortunately, that's the reality of wanting a slide deck that we can share, and if I'm not necessarily speaking, that still gets the point across. But as much as I hate wordy slides, I figured I'd at least start with more of a picture-based slide. I think a picture-based says 1,000 words, and also, though, I think it's important just as I get to know all of you, a quick little anecdotal story about me and who I am. So as most of y'all know, living in North Carolina, you probably see the house divided signs driving around or on license plates or flags throughout the area. So most of those pits stayed against Carolina or something similar. Well, in my household, I do think we have a very unique perspective. I grew up a diehard NC State fan, going to games at Reynolds Coliseum, watching Jim Valvano coach. I then went to Wake Forest University, where, as most of you know, an undergrad education definitely makes me bleed gold and black. I then went to Duke for graduate school, which I love the education. I will admit I'm not a diehard Duke fan, but I will still pull for them. And then I married a double Tar Heel, so 2 degrees from Carolina. So we have a 6-month-old, and I pity William as he has to ultimately make the rooting decisions for who he is going to root for here in our great state and on Tobacco Road. So again, just a little fun anecdote about me as I introduce myself to you and as we lead off for the next few minutes together. So while you're really here, though, Windows 10, why the buzz? How do we get to where we are? And I think, candidly, Microsoft has done something extremely unique. This is the first time ever, as I'm sure all of you know, they are offering a free upgrade to Windows 10. Unprecedented in Microsoft's history to do that. And so, more reason than not, that is the #1 reason of why we are here. A few details, though, that you just may not know. That upgrade is only good for Windows 8.1 and Windows 7 devices, and only the Home and Pro edition of those devices. So if you are on older machines or different licensing agreements, realize that this will not, you can't get the free upgrade. You can still purchase an upgrade, but can't get a free one. The other really important thing from this is that the free upgrade period started when Windows 10 was released last July, and it runs for a year. So please note that that free upgrade period will be expiring here at the end of July of this year, 2016. So we're a little over halfway done. And then you can read through some of the other fine print there. This is a Microsoft slide as well, so directly from them. You know, also, though, I think as we talk about an overview of Windows, I think it's just interesting to look at some of the numbers. I think it really shows a lot about the market and how the market is embracing Windows 10. Over 200 million devices are running Windows 10, and that is of January 1st. So you have to think that number has continued to grow much, much greater. One really important note, though, is that 22 million of those devices are business customers. So as you can see, the large majority, only 10% or so have been businesses. But I will say that is starting to change very, very, very fast. And that's very normal in a Microsoft deployment model. Most of the time when they release a new OS, they will release it on consumer devices first, which they have done here. And then a lot of time businesses wait, see how it's received, wait for some of the initial rounds of testing and patching, do some testing of their own, and then decide whether to roll out or not. And I think we are at that point now where a lot of businesses, a lot of the conference we go to, people are at that point. It is the fastest growing Windows operating system ever, which I think definitely is something powerful to say about it. And a lot of the growth, as I was mentioning, we've sort of reached that tipping point where so much of the growth has been recent. And again, this is just from January 1, so really in December, 60% of the installs came just in the month of December, and got to think that's exponential growth from here. Microsoft is projecting to have 1 billion devices by the time we get to this time next year running Windows 10. So if nothing else, it is something that does need to be discussed. Microsoft's obviously investing a lot, and there are a lot of people investing in this OS. You know, I do think, as I said, it's important to see a little bit from what Microsoft's saying. So these next few slides are all direct from Microsoft slide decks. We changed the formatting a little bit to fit our style, but the verbiage and all is directly from Microsoft. So I think it's important to see what's their perspective. You know, so at a high level, they're claiming the best platform for modern businesses, affordable and innovative devices, simple to set up and manage, and enterprise quality security in the SMB realm. And we'll dive into each one of these individually. So one, simple to use, and you know, they obviously state easy for Windows 7 users, familiar experience, tailored form factor. And I'll agree, I'll give them a huge compliment for this. I've been running Windows 10, and I am not, even though I work at a techie company, I myself am not I'm not an engineer, and so I guess so easy that a salesperson could do it would be the best way to say this. It has been a very seamless migration for me as an end user moving from Windows 7 to Windows 10. I think that's an extremely positive. Obviously, Windows got a lot of pushback when they first went to Windows 8 that it was such a big jump. that it confused a lot of users, and it really wasn't received that well at all. One other thing to note on this slide is Cortana. You might be wondering, what is that? That is actually Microsoft's response to Siri. So actually Windows 10 has their own Siri now. You can either type questions, or if you have a mic, you can speak questions. You can search your operating system, try to find different devices. So a lot you can do there. They also claim affordable and innovative devices. And I want to touch on a couple things from what I've seen on this slide as well. One, it says thin, light, and stylish designs, but faster boot times and responsiveness. Designed for longer battery life. I really have noticed a difference running on my exact same Lenovo laptop that Windows 10 does seem to be faster. It boots faster, it goes to sleep faster, it starts up faster. I think they eliminated a lot of the overhead and a lot of the junk and have made it a higher performing machine. So I think that's very important. The other big takeaway on this slide I like to note is I do think they have an operating system that they want to be able to go over multiple platforms, whether it's mobile, tablet, your desktop, or your laptop. It is a platform that can reside on all those, which is important. Simple to set up and manage. This is another big talking point of Microsoft. Upgrade existing PCs in place. This is one that we'll come back to, but while we're here, I did want to briefly say, on a whole, Windows, and compared to old operating systems, has done a very good job with this. I mean, they intended the upgrade to be extremely seamless to the end user, so that any end user could do it on their own. To be completely candid, what we found is it is very, very good. I wouldn't say it is foolproof or perfect. In our upgrades that we've done both here and with some other customers, we've seen about a 50% complete success rate, and that's not saying that 50% are failures, but some glitches that you have to respond to. Some users may be well-versed enough to be able to respond on their own to get through those, but other things that you definitely could use a more technical resource to make sure that the upgrade goes as planned. So that is important to note. And then the bottom here, really, again, going back to mobile device management and trying to make sure that these devices are integrated on a large swath of devices. And finally, enterprise quality security for the SMB. A lot of things that Microsoft has done to try to adapt to the ever-changing security landscape that we deal with. One thing being trusted boot. A huge security vulnerability that used to occur was, as you know, when you boot up an older operating system, there's a time there when it's booting up where you'll start to see all your applications loading. And sadly, or unfortunately, some of those applications that are slow to load are security applications. And actually, a lot of hackers found a pretty big vulnerability. Way to get malware, spyware was to leverage that time period during boot up before security protocols were in place. So that is something that Microsoft has addressed very, very well here. The rest of these are all important. There are different things for enhanced pop-up protection, phishing protections, two-factor authentication, a lot of techie stuff, but just know there is some enhanced security in Windows 10. So the next step, though, is, all right, that's what Microsoft says. So now what have we seen at CSP from our perspective? And I think that's an important piece to look at as well. As I mentioned, we have been testing this for a few months now. We had a few really early adopters, a few engineers who were true beta testers who have probably been on it for 5-6 months now. And then around the turn of the year, we started rolling out to the majority of our users. And so we have been using it internally very successfully. And I think the overall consensus is, in general, job well done. I think what Jonathan Zederberg, one of our client engineers, stated, I think probably puts it best. The user interface combines the look and feel of Windows 7, but with the style and efficiency of Windows 8. Again, I think that's a very succinct way to put it. I mean, it works, it feels like Windows 7, but you do have some cooler features that you could find in Windows 8. Chad Strickland, I actually like it a lot, and to me that's a little funny. Chad can be a noted Microsoft skeptic, and then Chris talking about a feature that he likes. So I think when you poll CSP with what our research and talking with vendors and talking with Microsoft and talking with the community, we do think this is an operating system that's here to stay in the line of a Windows XP or a Windows 7. Probably not a Windows Vista, a Windows 8, something that is sort of a short-lived, doesn't get the mass adoption. So we do think it's here to stay. But there are a few caveats, and I think that's a few things that we do want to talk through and spend some time on. the first and most important being application compatibility. Anytime a new OS is released, there are going to be specific software providers trying to make sure their applications can reside and run on the new OS. So definitely there are thousands of software applications out there, so it's impossible for us to list them all, but whatever your line of business application is, it is important to check on compatibility and make sure it can run on Windows 10. That is probably the #1 deal breaker. Besides the specific applications, I mean, there are some general things that we've picked up. Windows 10 only supports IE 10 or 11. So again, if you have an application that requires an older version of IE, Windows 10 isn't for you. We see some Cisco VPN client, just the IPsec VPN client, have some issues. So we can talk through that with you on an individual basis. Some Java compatibility issues for programming, Office 2003. So those are just a few examples of some specific things, but something to definitely keep an eye on as you consider whether or not you want to make this jump. And also, I mentioned this later, but I think it's important to note too that this is a fluid situation, and don't think what application now isn't supported won't be forever. Software application providers are always catching up, releasing patches, and making sure that they can. So this isn't a forever statement right there. The second, do you have a 64-bit machine? Windows 10 does not run well on 32-bit machines. We definitely recommend upgrading, and it's not supported at all for 16-bit applications. Hardware requirements, as I said, it does seem to use less overhead than either Windows 7 or 8, perform better, but we still recommend at minimum 4 gigs of RAM on any device running Windows 10. 8 gigs is actually now what we're recommending, but again, you can easily get by with 4. And if you want to really get in some rabbit holes, feel free to jump on the web, type in Windows 10, and you can have a plethora of forums, to see a lot of techie debate. I will say, read at your own risk. Obviously a lot of people debating Linux versus Windows and security and privacy and all the above. A lot really in the weeds discussion that we won't go into today, but let us know if you have any of those questions. So if I were in your shoes, I'd probably be saying, all right, well, great, Stephen, but I'm still confused. Should I upgrade or not? So a few more considerations. One, I have to reiterate again, the application question. If any of those questions that were just raised on application aren't supported, that's probably a deal breaker right there. But then the other considerations, both positive and negative, if I were in your shoes. One, the free upgrade now or pay later. Microsoft currently states that after July you will have to pay for this license, which runs $149.95 or so around $150. There is a lot of industry debate about whether or not they're going to relax that standard. It's a risk whether you want to wait for it or not. Who really knows? It's a big debate that nobody really knows the answer for. The next thing to keep in mind: Windows end of support deadlines for Windows 7 and 8. Just so you know, Windows 7 goes end of support in 2020, Windows 8 in 2023. Until then, Microsoft will continue to release security patches, so that's really important. It's not like if you don't upgrade right now, all of a sudden you're going to be left out to dry with an unsupported, unsecure operating system. You still will be getting that support and that security. And the other reality is you'll probably embark on a PC hardware refresh before those dates anyways. Most PC cycles are 3 to 5 years, and with Windows 7, we're 4.5 years out from that. So you may be upgrading your hardware before then anyways. A couple other really quick notes. One, most commercial grade Lenovo PCs are still shipping with Windows 7 or 8. To be very candid, I think the distributors got burned. I think right when it was rolled out, they started putting Windows 10 on every single device. I think the business community was not ready for it yet. They were stuck with a lot of inventory, lost a lot of money, got skittish. They've put 7 and 8 back on everything and now have a lot of 7 and 8 inventory. And now I think the business market's starting to clamor a little bit more for Windows 10. So just an FYI, there's some out there, but it's not everywhere. So if you do buy a new one, you'll have to buy it with Windows 7 or 8 and then probably upgrade it. And as I said earlier, the upgrade isn't as seamless as Microsoft states. That's something to keep in mind. And also the bandwidth. If you are doing that, it's about a 6 gig file that you will need to download to upgrade. So that is just something to think about, the bandwidth impact, whether it's during the day or overnight, and whether you're impacting the rest of your users. All right. So if I were you, I'd probably be saying, well, that still didn't answer it. I still don't know. So here we'll talk about what is CSP's official policy, and then I'll give you some on-the-record, off-the-record thoughts just from my personal take. As a company at CSP, I mean, we really are saying the choice is yours. CSP will gladly support you either way. We've had engineers train on it. We're ready to support you on that. If you decide to make that jump, we're happy to help in the jump and in the support of it. So what I would ask you to do, though, is weigh the information as presented today and really think about, is this valuable for my organization or not? I would also say test it. I think that's probably the biggest thing, is pick a subset of users if you're interested at all, roll out Windows 10 to them, and get their thoughts on what it looks like in your specific environment, the application you're running, with how your company works. Is this a game changer or not, or can we just hold off and see how it works in your environment? As I said earlier, it's still fluid. The market's evolving. We will continue to monitor. One really important note, if you do decide to upgrade, though, please stay tuned for one more slide because we will talk about our recommendations if you do decide to upgrade. So while that's the CSP official stance, I mean, what are my thoughts? And I would say I've enjoyed it. I honestly have. There's some cool features. The user interface really is simple and intuitive. The upgrade went relatively easy for me. I did have an engineer help, but all my documents, all my favorites, everything transferred perfectly. And again, I think there is some enhanced security. But as a non-techie who just wants to work, I mean, I guess my question to you would be, is it worth the time and the money to upgrade? Is it easier to just get Windows 10 when it comes preloaded on the next PC that I purchase or that you purchase? And I think that's the ultimate decision. To me, it's awesome. I think it's here to stay. I think that there are a lot of great features, but to me, is there really that silver bullet that be like, wow, if I didn't have it, I couldn't do X, or I'm so much more productive because I have it. And at least in my mind, there isn't really that silver bullet, that I've seen at least. But again, that's just who I am. So that's for you to decide, and that's why I would highly recommend, the CSP stance of test it and see how it works in your environment. So if you do decide to upgrade, we would recommend these steps. One, engage a professional. I've said it before, I'll say it again. We have seen some glitches. If you want to do it, please engage, even if it's not us, somebody else, to talk through what are the steps, what do I need to be watching out for. Next, create a policy and control the rollout. I would really advise against you to not letting users unilaterally decide to upgrade, especially if you haven't tested applications to see what it works like. Let your users know, hey, our policy is for you not to upgrade on your own right now. Do some research. I mean, check on your hardware, check on your software to just see at least any major red flags about compatibility issues. Do a backup. While all data should seamlessly transfer, and it did for me, we would recommend it's important that you're making sure all your documents are saved on the server or a removable drive just in case things do go squirrely. As we've said numerous times, test. Pick a subset of users, upgrade, and see how their applications react. One important note there, Microsoft has created a downgrade option that is, from what we've seen, extremely helpful if it doesn't work. So it's very easy to fall back to Windows 7 or Windows 8. And then if you love it from there, roll it on out to everybody. One important note about our labor policy for Windows 10, and that is there is a lot of time involved in upgrades. And at CSP, as you know, if you're a CSP managed services customer, while we love to support you, any upgrades is an additional above and beyond charge beyond your typical what's included in your managed services contract. Just like if you were upgrading your servers, upgrading your PCs, upgrading your phone system, we would obviously have to charge you for those upgrades, and nothing different here for Windows 10. So one thing that we are doing, though, because there are so many questions, that we are allowing you to get a special, or anyone, not just managed service customers, use a special discounted T&M labor rate of $100 per hour to upgrade up to 5 users for testing purposes. And then at that point, we should really be able to see, does it work in your environment? How complex were the upgrades? How comfortable are we with it? And be able to give you a more detailed labor rate for what it will take for us to do the remaining users. And then one other final note, if a customer does attempt to upgrade on his or her own, but assistance is required after the fact, unfortunately, we will have to charge for standard T&M labor rates for that upgrade assistance as well. Again, it is an upgrade. It would not be covered under standard managed services support. I apologize. I've run through this about 3 or 4 times and thought I was great on time. I know I'm running a little short, and I want to answer some questions as well. Um, but let me just go a really, really brief demo. If nothing else, just show you the start screen. And this is the start button. So one thing that I think is great is if you see on the left-hand side here, honestly, that is the classic Windows 7. If your user is used to Windows 7, they can use it exactly how they always have. You can see all your applications, your power, sleep, shutdown, restart, most used applications, your different files, so you can use that. And then here on the right, still in the start menu, you have much more of the Windows 8 environment. And, I think it's great. I mean, you have your apps right there. So just off the weather, be able to get a quick glance at weather, whatever your most important apps are, you can have at your fingertips. It's extremely customizable. So you can have it all right there for you, a little bit more of almost a Apple OS, type model where your apps are there waiting for you to ready to go. Last thing, again, I did mention Cortana, which is like Siri. Again, it's an easy search function. You can speak, you can text, you can search the web, you can search your computer, search anything. So, for example, if you couldn't find your calculator, for example, just start typing it, finds it for you, and you are ready to go.